Hello, it's Eunice, and this is Nurture to Nurture. Welcome to part 3 of the Parenting Toolkit. And today we are looking at boundaries, setting boundaries. Boundaries are good for you as a parent, and boundaries are good for your teenagers. And I encourage you, set boundaries that encourage good behavior, because they are based on good character. When we set boundaries, many times we set boundaries to deter bad behavior. And when we do that, we look for harsh punishment in the process. Set boundaries with your teenager. Involve them, and also share your own boundaries with your teenager. Sometimes your children think that you as an adult don't have boundaries. And I'm saying to you, if you're an adult and you don't have boundaries, then start thinking about boundaries for yourself and share them with your teenagers, share them with your children, so that they know that you also have boundaries, and that boundaries are a good thing, and boundaries are not just for children and teenagers. Boundaries are for everyone. The first thing I do when I'm setting boundaries is I set boundaries based on love, and I explain that to you. I call them love boundaries. I set boundaries that is centered on love. It will show that I love myself, I love others, and I'm considerate. So it's the same way when I'm setting boundaries for my teen, the same way I do. I encourage him, and we talk about it together, that boundaries are meant to when you're making choices, boundaries are for love, loving yourself, loving others, and be considerate. And so I'll give you a typical example of a boundary I set with my teen. Let's say bedtime. Bedtime, we have boundaries for bedtime. So as his age, I set a bedtime. No, I look up and see how many hours that is appropriate for him to sleep at his age. And when you do that, you're actually looking after yourself. So if you pitch the sleeping, if you go on to bed at the appropriate time, is you loving yourself, because 1, you have enough sleep, 2, you wake up refreshed, and 3, you'll be ready for the day. Do you see what I mean? So that kind of boundary is based on, you set that boundary based on love, not that I'm setting a boundary because I don't love you, or I'm punishing you, or something like that. So I'm setting that boundary, explaining that it's based on loving yourself, and so that is more meaningful in the process. Another example of boundaries we have at home is when you eat, you wash your plates, you clean up after yourself. First, that is loving yourself, because when you clean your plate after yourself, the next time that you need a plate to eat, you have a clean plate. And also you're being considerate and loving others in the process, because when another person is also looking for a plate, there's a clean plate for them to use. So you give what you're doing meaning, so that when they are adhering to those boundaries and making the choices, whether to adhere to those boundaries or not, it's meaningful for them, and then they choose to love themselves and love others and be considerate. It's all part of growing character. And again, too, when you set boundaries, let those boundaries have their own natural consequences, and not go and bring an external consequence that is not related to the boundary. So let me give you a typical example. So boundary as in the sleeping time. Of course, if you go to bed early, the consequences is you wake up nice, you wake up refreshed, and you're good to go for the day. If you decide to go to bed late, you're hurting your own self. You wake up grumpy, you wake up tired, and your focus is limited, and it hurts your own self. And that is punishment enough. I don't have to give you an external punishment. That is a consequences that is already inherent in the love boundary. So I encourage you that when you're setting boundaries, set love boundaries, and let your love boundaries have their own natural consequences. I hope this helped, and I'll see you on the next episode of Parenting Toolkit. As I always say, love and share, and send me your comments as well. And I will say that love is patient, love is kind.